think we're live now, which this is a serious pain in the butt. Let's see if anybody comes in. I won't be able to see anything. Um, I don't know if there's a chat on this. That just makes it even more miserable. But I'm still messing around over here. Try to see if I can find myself. Yes, it's one of those days. And I don't know if anybody can hear me, if I should just wait for Trevor at this point. There's all kinds of issues and problems going on. I think the Wi-Fi dropped. I'm still trying to get things up here. If I can see the chat, I'll be okay. So I'm back into the channel. Shows me live there. Somebody's watching me. And like I said again, I can't see the chat. So I'm trying to do that. All right, let's see if I bring it up here. Does it show the chat? Even though it's a delay, it shows me. Okay. Okay, you're good now. No, I'm not good now. I'm running the computer behind the phone, and the phone's what I'm using to actually get in here. Yeah, let's see if everybody else can figure it out, because, yes, I don't know what's happening. There was a problem with the Wi-Fi, the microphone. There was a whole bunch of different problems. I'm going to try to very carefully move this around to get a little better shot rather than be right going up my nose. But, yes, it's back to the olden days. So I do have the chat screen up here. So the chat screen's up. I'm actually talking to the phone. So if there's suddenly something tosses or falls or something happens, that's because, yes, this is the most gimmicked way to do this. But I do not know what happened. I came in, everything looked like it was running fine, and then I brought it up, realized the mic wasn't working, tried to mess with the mic, and then we lost the live feed, and then everything went into total chaos, and then the computer shut off, and then the Wi-Fi stopped. So I don't know. I didn't seem to touch anything, and then I tried to bring everything back, but then it was telling me I was still live streaming. So I was like, oh crap, man, I gotta just gotta figure this out. And so I finally was able to shut everything down, disconnect everything, and then figured I will just stream on the phone. And there was some complication, but of course the problem is I couldn't see the chat. There's no chat on this when I brought it up live here. Even though it's throwing me little people throwing things up now. I'm trying to see how, okay, it seems to have a chat. It just flashes the messages up on the screen. So, but I got the chat up on the screen behind it. So, yes. So if it looks different, there you go. That's because we are better than gold. No. And you know what? A testament to my patience. The whole time all that was happening, realizing that the camera or the audio could correct itself. There was absolutely no swearing through all of that. So I just thought, well, okay, well, maybe I need to walk off and have a cigarette, which would have been hilarious for everybody to actually see me and hear me, and I didn't know it was live, and I would have just left. But that's how it goes sometimes. So I'll have words with Trevor. See, there has to be a simpler way, and I do not know what was wrong. So I guess we'll have to run a test run on doing that. The fireplace doctor. Okay. Plan on the rendezvous again. We'll be better prepared. Always well prepared on the rendezvous. The problem with the rendezvous, the preparations of the rendezvous, is we keep trying to do what people say, hey, wouldn't this be a great idea? Back when we started the rendezvous, the guest speaker, we took a fire barrel, just flipped it upside down, put a lantern on it, and they talked, and we talked in the Ramada, and it worked really well for a decade. And then we thought, well, let's get clever here. Let's have lighting. Let's do this. Let's have audio visuals. And that's where you bring in technical problems. When it's just a guy standing up there talking to a group of people and they have to keep hushed, it works out really well. Now I believe we have a whole new audio system for this year, and microphones and all kinds of stuff. So when you add that on top of everything, it gets more and more complicated. So now it involves lighting and sound and all kinds of stuff. And that's where the problems of the rendezvous occur, is because you're bringing technology into there in a place that has no electricity, no Wi-Fi, nothing like that. If we had a good signal out of there that I wouldn't think he'd be buffering the whole time, I would say, yeah, it'd be great for like the guest speakers or some of the Rendezvous to go live a lot. And I know sometimes we capture a live out of there, but most of the time, sometimes you can't even get a phone call out of there. So it just depends. It's Dave. Dave who? The fireplace? Dave the fireplace doctor? Okay. Finally. I was talking about being better, me being better prepared. All right. I don't know if this is Ettinger or Dave. It's not Dave Cook. He's not around no more. So I'm waiting to see who Dave is. Dave. Dave will be better prepared. I don't know who the fireplace doctor is. Too many Daves. See, why aren't there people? See, you need a world of people like, there's Clyde. And that's a good name, see, Clyde. If you have Clyde, there's not going to be a lot of Clydes around. So that would be really good, Clyde. But yeah, we lost all those names that just kind of faded away. And everybody's a Michael or a Dave or an Eric, Tyler's. The chair burning guy slept in truck. Oh, the chair burning guy. Chair burning festival. That would be a cool festival where everybody burns their chairs. There's no place. Okay, yeah, too many Daves come out. Just I was going through like going, Dave who? Okay, anyways. So there we are. We're back into another week. And of course, this week we're wrapping it up. It's Friday. It's absolutely really super nice out today out here. And people are going to go, what? Because it's 90 degrees and it's about 50, 60, about 60% humidity right now. 90 degrees and 60% humidity, it is like awesome because it's normally 110 to 115 degrees and absolutely searing out there. So when everybody's sitting there going like, oh, it's 95 degrees here and 70% humidity, yeah, cry me a river, man. No, it's super nice out today. And then we had a little bit of sprinkle of rain here and there. So it was like super, 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 super. But yeah, the weather's just great. It's not great that I'd want to be out there all day hiking in it, but it's so different. You know, take 15 degrees off and it feels like I need a jacket. Anyhow, so we got a little bit, I don't know where it's coming from. I think El Nino or Nina or one of them up from the Gulf of Mexico. We got a little stream of something and it kind of broke the weather for us a bit. So that was really nice. I want to always add www.legendssuperstitionmountains.com. Go check that stuff out. And Jack Sanfelice's new book, Finding El Dorado. Go to www.jacksanfelice.com and you can get a signed copy through Jack there. If not, when the book is in, it will be at the Superstition Mountain Museum and the Goldfield Ghost Town Museum. You'll be able to pick copies up there. Right now, as far as I know, it will not be on Amazon or any other place that you can order it. So you have to pre-order or order through Jack himself. And that's according to Jack. So according to the Jack. So there you go. Pick up Jack's book. And while you're there, just drive up the road and you'll see there's a dinosaur. And when you see the dinosaur, turn in left there, walk down the hill. And there you'll find Ron Feldman. And you go into Ron and say, hey, Ron, I'd like to buy your book and Jesse's book. And Ron will go, okay, it's sitting over there. And then you go over there and you give him your card and you can buy those books too there. They might be in the other museums. I don't know. But they're definitely there at the gift shop at the OK Corral. So there you go. So you can go to all three places, pick up various books and catch all those books. Ron has a whole plethora of books. So he's got lots of books and he likes to sell books. And he's got good coffee there. So buy a cup of coffee, get a book, say hi to Ron. You might catch Shoes down at Goldfield. And there you go. So that'd be a good day. So anyways, there. How was my week? My week was okay. It got better now that it cooled off. I mean, the whole week it was pretty hot. It was pretty dry and it was pretty miserable. And then last night, big storm blew in. Got maybe 30 minutes of rain. Not much, but it was really windy. I mean, I knew it when the storm blew in because I was sitting in the other room and I watched a chair go flying by the back door. I just watched it like something out of Wizard of Oz and a tornado go flying by, and I said, oh, it's getting windy out. And it went clear across the yard, and sure enough, it was windy out. So it picked up, had a big storm come up from the south. Like I said, it didn't give us much rain, but really it just brought this cooler weather in. So I'm very, very, very happy. Wayne's World, party time, excellent. I look better than Dana Harvey. It was Dana Carvey. I have a Barks note question that's been bothering me. Go ahead, Dallas. Hey, Wayne, David Keith III taking a road trip to Phoenix, and we'll be there Sunday. Cool. Okay. Very cool. And I'm still looking for that question, too. I understand that Dr. Thorne's story doesn't have anything to do with superstition. You mentioned earlier the story, confuse it with... Well, no, they confuse it with that story. It was that story, and they placed it in the superstitions for some reason. And I'm trying to think of who really broke that open. I know Thomas Glover did a lot on that, but it really just kind of started, people started going looking for, they found everything in New Mexico, and it started to open it up. And of course, the problem is, who's going to write a book? Maybe we'll have to put that aside and find all the information and do a little video on it, because it took a while. We did our video on it. Yeah, we did do one on Doc Thorne, but it just kind of like, it was one of those things that kind of like the stone maps and Travis Tumlinson, as people kept prying and meeting people and digging and pulling up documents, something else became more apparent to it. I think at the time, when you get early on, people were associating different stories with one and the same. So you find a region that, oh, there's a lost mine over here. Well, there's also this, there's also that. So I think Doc Thorne got kind of brought in. It's kind of like, what was the other story? You got the Zigzag Canyon one. You got several different stories, and I think it's like what I've talked about, and I hope this is coherent. The two soldiers mine. There's two soldiers, one soldier, lost soldiers, French Canadian soldiers, almost in every state in the West, and definitely in the Southwest. And even here locally in Phoenix, the soldier's tale, the soldier's lost mine, the two soldiers lost mine, that story is in several different areas of different mountains throughout Arizona. So there's that same story that's repetitive. It's different stories. I think the two soldiers mine that's in the Estrella Mountains might be a silver mine, but they have that same label. And so when the two soldiers mine came into the superstitions, I think Jim Bark and Sims Ely were trying to figure out, is this one and the same? Could this possibly be tied to Waltz? They kind of believe it, and then they don't kind of believe it. And I think that was kind of a thing. But what I always look at is it really? Because the descriptions, while they could be similar, seem differing. I've never been convinced that the two soldiers mine and Jacob Waltz's lost Dutchman mine are one and the same, because it seems very descriptively different. Waltz said, nobody will find my mine, there's no tailings, all these certain stories. And yet those guys said, oh, there were tailings everywhere, we just picked them up randomly. So you're trying to figure out, okay, and then some people's excuses, well, Waltz threw all the tailings in the mine. Yeah, he just had, he was fearing Apaches coming in and killing him. He had plenty of time. But, so it's easy to kind of start lumping them together, to put clues together to do that. Okay, hold on, I'm trying to catch up, so I'm thinking, can you give me some info about the other story? So I think I covered that. There wasn't so much another story as they were just basically placing the story in the wrong place. Chapter 11 and 12, they cross first, second water, and then paint mine. Then LaBarge Creek to a trail top of the mountain on the other side, ride southeast, and can. Okay, hold on. So you'd have to put it more in context. But if you go through first, second water, then the paint mine, I know that, and then cross LaBarge Creek and up a trail to the top of the mountain on the other side and ride southeast and can, I don't know, it just kind of faded off there, so I don't know what you were saying. Hold it. Can see top of a black mesa. It says Busca, and they could have been looking at Blacktop from there. Yes, yeah. So it could have been the top of Blacktop. It's hard to say what they thought they were on. Peters Mesa. Malapai is pretty high too. So it could have been Malapai. even though it doesn't seem to fit the directions as well. Geronimo Head would actually be there, but I don't think there's just a trail. That's a climb to get up there. I'm sorry, I'm just not, I'm trying to put that in context, and I don't have the bark notes here to look at. Where every day is a golden day. How come you guys don't find more silver, or do you? We run into silver. We ran into silver when we were in Fish Creek. We found where those guys were working it off that ledge. We weren't sure if it was the lost mine that we were being told was up there, because the description of it was different. It was more of a lode mine, a pit mine, it sounded like. And they worked this ledge on the side of the mountain. So, but we were able to find silver and look at the material. So we know what they were working. We know it was silver. It wasn't anything today. They must have found a good amount at the time. Nothing worth dealing with now. But I'm pretty sure that had to be in one of the first 2 seasons of the YouTube stuff. And Frank had actually found some of the pieces of silver down low where they'd made their camp, and he metal detected it. And then we found those where the wire had run down the canyon, and they'd been running supplies. And then we worked our way up and found the ledge where they had been breaking off the ledge all the way down. And we kind of found the vein that they were working on, and we kind of figured that's what it was. So that would have been that. And we found pieces that have silver in it, but nothing major like scream home at you, just bits and pieces of silver. Okay, hold on. I'm going to try to catch up. Now, everybody slow down for me, because I'm on a whole different way. Okay, so we do find some silver. We find a lot of copper, too. See, top of Black Mesa, then he says Busca. Yeah, he says Busca. Why would they be looking at the top of Blacktop if they're across the canyon? Well, they would be looking, I don't think there's a Blacktop. So you could say it was Black Mountain. Can hear you now. Yes, I'm here now. Peter's Trail off of Blacktop Mesa. Okay, now that doesn't make sense. I'm trying to put in context where they would be and what they would see in the distance. It's kind of funny when you're up there, if you've ever been up in the mountains and up high, is how the mountains look differently to different people. I know that when you're talking, that was when you're talking about when Jim Bark and Sims Ely went out with the guy, and the guy just points and then he just wouldn't go any further. I think you're talking about that story. But see, I confused that, because the story I remember was they went up, and I know they went out and they kind of came out and might have been going around Fish Creek or LaBarge from Apache Trail. And that was where the guy wouldn't take him any further. I don't know. I might have the two stories confused, not looking at it. But if you went first, second water, across LaBarge and all that, and you were heading in that direction, you would be heading, I know the first thing when you go to Red Paint and you're looking straight in front of you, that's Geronimo Head. So that would be what you would be looking at, but there's no trail there. So I would be having to guesstimate that you would be talking Peters Mesa or Tortilla. But I mean, unlike what everybody and their sister that doesn't know anything believes, Peters Mesa had some people up there messing around and stuff, but as far as really any, outside of Crazy Jake up there digging holes, I've not really seen anything that indicates to me that there's the mining activity that was like at Bluff Springs and some of the mining activity I saw down in Fish Creek. I mean, I've seen some old Spanish, Mexican mines in those areas. But on Peters Mesa, I don't know. It's kind of like, let's take ourselves back, let's look at Oak Island and those guys digging around, and how many people have dug so many tunnels and they've dug so many pits, and then now everybody's trying to go back and recreate and talk about what could possibly be there. There's so much damage. You're not even sure what you're into or who or what and what they've dumped in there from various periods, because they'll reuse lumber. They'll take old lumber from somewhere else and use it in there. They're not going to drop all new trees down. They're going to go find some old lumber somewhere else and bring it in. So everything can be so contaminated. And when you look at pictures of what that place looked like at one time, it's incredible. Sorry, because I'm trying to keep up track of stuff too. To also give an indication regarding the remaining cash in relation to this location. No, just in his camp. It's a distance from the mine. If you can get to the mine, you can get to the cache. Yes. Are there other accounts? No, that was where they were supposed to go. Switched accounts. Dave's also known as the fireplace. Oh, okay. Now I get that. Didn't burn a chair, left mine home, borrowed Clinton's chair, and then Keith's. You should create an account called Dave the Chair Burner and okay. Burn more, burned one. um, okay, so again, where were we? So yeah, because I am in a completely different kind of position than normally doing this. If you can get to the mine, you can get to the cache. Now, Walt said, can't find the mine. Was one of those confusing things that Julia and Reinhardt said they didn't really understand. But Walt said, you can't find the mine unless you find the camp, and you can't find the camp unless you know where the mine is. He was only taking them to the camp. He said once they get to the camp, they'd retrieve the cache. And when they retrieve that, he told Reinhardt Petrash, I will show you kind of basically where the mine is, how to get to the mine, but we're not going to mess with that because none of us are in any condition to deal with that. So, I mean, it was a difficult place to access and so forth, which rules out a number of different places, but also it tells you his camp was much easier to get to. I don't know if there was a trail there or whatnot, but it goes with that. What was the other one? To get to the camp, you had to go down the canyon, but back up the canyon to get up high. So there was only one kind of particular route. Bark notes are good. They're confusing, but you have to put it in context with what they remembered and what they said he told them. And I think he always had the design to take them to a certain point or show them certain specifics. And we do know that Julia had something he drew out that Godfrey Petrash took from her and ended up burning later, according to Herman. And that probably gave you more of an idea of where things were. Now, did he give her a map of where the mine is? Possibly not. He might have still been just trying to get him to the camp, because that was Waltz's main thing, was let's get to the camp. If you find the camp, everything else will fall into place. The camp, he said, from where they set camp, you could see the spots where those potholes or whatever it was that he kind of buried the ore down in. He said you could see all of them from his camp. But they were short distance, so he could keep an eye out there. And so it's some specific way. Metal detector would be great, but it's locating where his camp was. And far as I know, that's been one of the true tales, is everybody uses the directions to the mine that actually are probably more directions going to the camp. And that's hard to figure, is if he was talking to them for 8 months, how many times was he talking about the camp? How many times was he talking about the mine? And they were just picking up whatever and remembering whatever he told them. And then it becomes a jumble. And so when people are up there and they're going, well, I'm trying to look for, there'll be covered pit here. You might not be looking for that. You might be looking for where his camp was, which I've always told people, if you find an area and you think it fits something and you're looking for the mine, the best thing possibly to do is take a metal detector and swing a detector and see if there's anything under the ground that would be just buried. I'm sure it was covered, but it couldn't have been covered. It wasn't like he used a caliche or anything like that. He just covered over the ore. And if it was on a rise or something, it's probably still covered up and sitting there. All right, so let's see. Well, sunsets, be ready to watch at the Rendezvous. I'm hoping so. We'll talk about that in a second. Very difficult. Correction P. Okay. Sunsets is finished except for moi. We keep working on the music. One of the weird things, and I'll talk about this for a minute, is when you set music, especially to film, it's a completely different thing. If you're writing songs or you play music, there's different ways you do things. When you're doing music with film, you're trying to sync things up. So say when someone's talking, because this is obviously, it's Ron Feldman, Thomas Glover, and Greg Davis, and Clay Worst talking, I'm trying to make the music, whether it's in the forefront leading into a clip or in the background behind them, I want it to be in the key and cadence of who's talking. And you wouldn't believe how much of a difference that makes. Music can sound like it just don't belong, sound amateurish, but if that person kind of is speaking and you realize, oh, they're kind of in A, you can use a minor and it actually sounds right. And Trevor's very frustrated because I put things down and then I listen and then I look at it and then I kind of wait to see what feels right. And I keep trying to pull back more out of it, instrumentation, going with something simpler and simpler. I also have a problem with everybody. If you go out and you find most anything to do with the Lost Dutchman mine, anybody wrote a song about it. It's a country and western song. It's something famous like that. And that's not what I hear in my head when I'm in the mountains, obviously. So I kind of always look at it from a different perspective of that. I think it has its own kind of rhythm and flow. So I always look at what Trevor's doing, what's in the film, and then I'm like, okay, so we got a lot of it done. We had a first cut that went to film festivals, and it's going to have different music than what originally was in it, because I was very unhappy with the recording, and I was very, very unhappy with the fact that I did kind of more Spanish style guitar and stuff. And once I was done, I was like, that's what everybody does in every film. They do this Spanish, kind of like, oh yes, it's the Peralta song. And I was like, I was using Spanish chords, and I was trying to do something that I thought what everybody else would say is that's typically what it is. And Trevor got very frustrated because then I pulled everything and I said, no, 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 no. This is what it should be. It should be something that it doesn't have a specific style. We're not playing into the, what would I call it? Man, my brain is screwed today. I'm not playing into the usual what you would expect. So I'm not playing into, Ghost Riders in the Sky. I'm not playing to Malagueña. I'm not doing that. I want something that when you sit back, you're looking at a film and you're not looking at it in context. Concept. I'm not trying to conceive music because, well, everybody thinks this is cowboy or this is western or this is Arizona or this is this. It doesn't need to be a German waltz either, but it needs to be something that fits in hue and key and sits there and is completely fits the scene, whether regardless of what it is and what they're talking about subject matter, because I think that's just stupid. Having the wind whistle in the background, coyotes going off is like, okay, that's just corny to me. So that's what happened. We finished the film and everything was done, and Trevor was kind of happy. He wanted to re-record some of it. Once I sat back, I said, no, that's not the level what we need to be. So we've been working on pieces, and I've been constantly it's been because he's been so busy that we want to track certain things. But I have a good idea now listening to the voices. So I listen to the voice, I play several things, I listen to it, change the keys, and then when I find that it fits the best and doesn't intrude, you'll almost forget it's there, but it seems to work with the scene. That's what I was looking for. And so I don't want someone to sit there and go, oh, the music's awesome. No, I want someone to not even really almost notice the music becomes part of the film itself. So I put way too much effort. Trevor gave me way too much leeway. That slowed everything down. So everything's done. He has the covers done. He has the posters done. He has everything. They even sent him back the initial first test copies. And then the first run he's ready to go to. It just requires me to sit here and finish. And then right in the middle of that, just to make everybody's head blow up, I tried to convince Trevor that I wanted to maybe move off of Pro Tools and go to Digital Performer, because Digital Performer works with film more. And since we seem to be working more with video and film, that's a whole different way of recording and stuff. I'm pretty sure it works with Macintosh, but our system here is a Windows system, which would mean we'd have to be working off his system behind me, which is the Macintosh system. And that would create another problem of we've kind of separated things. In fact, we rebuilt everything here, and not to get everybody into stuff that's not interesting, but this was all originally set, the studio, which was analog, then we made it digital, but it was for FireWire, and we don't use FireWire anymore. So nothing nowadays has FireWire, so we had to rebuild the computer and rebuild everything to accept all the equipment. Otherwise, I had to go out and buy new equipment. So it was just a ridiculous concept. of how to get around all the bugs and stuff. It's one of the problems today, I think, in modern society is everything changes every 3-4 years to the point that plugins and stuff don't always adapt or work. Remember the days you'd have Windows something and then you go to the next Windows and the games wouldn't play? Well, it's that type of thing. And Firewire, which was the way everything used to work in recording studios and stuff, and for all these large files and all this stuff, it's not really used anymore. It's like an ancient thing, and I don't think most computers and stuff have it, but we had to develop and rebuild this computer because the computer I'm using, well, on the screen, not on this right now, that computer had to be rebuilt, and we had to keep Firewire and everything so we could run the current system, which was designed and built off of running Firewire, and the racks, which are just down below me here on my left. And so it was like, how much do you want to spend? It was easier to rebuild the computer and configure everything to that. When I hit the lottery, I'll buy a whole new system and a new rack system. So, but that was it. So it becomes all these different little problems and little things. And so he's all done. He's all ready. I don't know where they are. If I knew where they were sitting, he was here, I would grab one and show you. But they are done. The packaging, everything, he got it done. And it just ended up on me of consuming, of sitting there for hours, 8 hours sometimes on a Saturday, and then saying, no, we're not going to use any of that. So that's all on me. It's not Trevor's fault. So, correction on Heath. Okay, Heath. Yes, it's Heath. Okay, ready, watch at the Rendezvous. Yes. Damn music always. Damn musicians. What's the tall order to give yourself a break and just let the music flow? Well, it's not so much that. It's that when you sit down, like I said, you really want something when you're taking a piece of music, and Trevor noticed it. He didn't understand. He thought I was being an idiot. But when you sit back and you're playing something, and then I would say I'd change key, and then I would sit back, and he thought it was like I was kind of losing it. But then once I had it and understood what key I wanted to work in, and that whether it was a sharp or flat, and then he heard it, and he was like, oh, yeah, I do hear that. And I said it's because the person's tone in their voice, I don't want to be in contrast to it. I want it to be in the background and flow. And so it's hard when someone's just talking to understand where they're at and what works exactly with that. Because all of us have different voices. I have a voice that's kind of a bit of an odder one. It's a little deeper. It's not quite a deep voice, but it's a more gravelly voice, but it's definitely not, doesn't have much of a high register. And then you get other people. Clay has a lot of high register in his voice. Greg Davis does. Sometimes people get older, their registers actually go higher. And so as you're listening to them, I have a bit more of a sing-song voice, so there's more opportunities of things, but I'm not in the film necessarily. I'm briefly have a narration piece. But for the most part, is everybody else. So I had to sit there. And when you sit there and you're listening to Ron Feldman, Bob Shoes, Clay Worst, just take those three voices alone. Those are three completely different voices. And so it's making sure, again, that when you listen to it, you're not listening to the background music and saying, oh, Wayne's playing some really nice Spanish guitar there. It's more of you're sitting back and don't even notice it. It just fits seamlessly with it. And since Trevor put so much time, and I think he did such a great job on this, it was my duty, I felt, to make sure that the music was the best quality possible. Yes, it'd be great to just let it flow, put it out there and say, yeah, it was pretty good. But that's not right by him either, since we did that. Now, we could go out and go grab some music and use something in it. That's done, but it wasn't that way again. So, but like I said, the first cut, I didn't like the miking, and I didn't like how we recorded it. The second time we went through, and I'm glad we didn't use that because I'm not happy with that, but the system we used had a hum and a buzz in the back. And what's funny is there's recently a film came out, and if you actually catch it on YouTube or catch it somewhere or see the trailer for it, when you see the film, you'll notice there's a hum. Anytime people are talking and stuff, they used bad mics, and they didn't use any filters, and everything just has this big, sounds like a fan turned on anytime someone's talking. Really, really, really poor choice on their part, very amateurish. And that's the thing Trevor and I tried to make sure is that the audio, if nothing else, while the camera worked 4K. I don't know what that was all about. Dogs went crazy. But anyways, we wanted to make sure our audio was good. Well, when you make sure your audio is that good for the film, you can't go into the music and have something that has a buzz or a hum, no matter how indistinct it is. And I was hearing it, not so much the headphones, it wasn't noticeable as much as when I in the open room, I was catching it. And I told Trevor, I said, I don't like that at all. So then we had to go back and change the way we were going to set up and run everything. We're very happy with what we're getting now. We're getting a very good sound. Then there was a problem with reverb. I had too much. I was trying to put a little reverb and create some warmth, but the room and everything, that was another thing. It became very shrilly and echoey. You're going to get me talking too much about this stuff, and I can drive someone crazy doing that stuff. Anchor weights now. Next. So what did you think about my theory I sent you? Everyone's theory is plausible because nobody has anything in hand. When somebody has something in hand, that will be the difference and make the difference. You can talk. I've been up in that area a lot. I'm not sure where you're going to look. Hey, there's the Bowman. Man, this is a headache and a half. See how I'm doing this? I'm watching. I have to watch the chat there because I had to get this up because the audio failed, the camera went down, the Wi-Fi went out, and everybody was watching me, and the whole thing dropped out.
The Wi-Fi shouldn't have gone out.
Well, it was everything, and I couldn't get. Then it wasn't letting me back in. So then I decided finally, because people were in, to do this. This was how now we were just finished talking about your film. And the fact that I'm still working on music for it, and we're hoping to get that all finished. That you're done, you're complete. Everything's completely done, even the box and everything else, and posters. And you're just waiting on the musician. Yes. So that's. You want that music, don't you?
Unreliable.
You want that music, don't you? Yes. Okay. So I wouldn't insult.
Am I getting it this year or next year?
You're getting it here this weekend.
Weekend?
Yes, I was playing. You know what? I was playing you and saying, "What do you think about this and this, and what do we do with this?" And you were ignoring me while you were working on something else.
Well, I probably didn't hear you.
So I was telling you over and over, "What do you think of this chord structure and do this because this will be less intrusive. I think it's in the right key." And you never said anything, so I just kind of, hopefully, I remember what I was doing. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, I'll catch up over here. Bowman's back. Had a different take on that waltz. Wanted to wait at his camp because if he went to the mine, he would have had to walk past the hanging rock where they burned the nephew. That's only 60 feet away. Well, okay, is your different take. Trevor's long gone. We need pizza. Yeah, we need pizza. Okay, so what you're saying is he wanted to wait at his camp with Julia and them, and didn't want to go to the mine because he didn't want to walk where he burned his nephew. I don't know about burning the nephew because I don't think there ever was a nephew. I think that's one of them Holmes made up weird things. The cache is about 30 feet. Because I don't know the burning the nephew because he said he shoved him under something. There's so many different stories of that. And then they got into the whole Peter Backens thing, and that was ridiculous. Kind of like became an imaginary thing. It was Dick Holmes. Wasn't that a Dick Holmes thing? He murdered the nephew. And then he put a chain around him and buried him under something. Waltz is dying. He's in his last breath. But he has all this effort to suddenly, clearly, distinctively, suddenly speak English and tell this story. And then later, Dick Holmes, of course. I'm Dick Holmes. And I found the skull and I brought it in and they put it up on a shelf. And this guy had it for years. And everybody heard about it. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, the only problem with all this is that's the only place you ever hear that story was Dick Holmes. And I'm not sure why the nephew only enters into the Dick Holmes story. And it only really enters into, I think, one version of it. And I think it was a later version. I don't think it was in one of the early version was Holmes was with a Mexican dude. Gideon Roberts is not even around. It's some Mexican guy. I think his name's Ramirez. And that's a story that goes back into the late 1890s, early 1900s. That was the story everyone knew. Hey, Dexter. Yeah, well, I hear you. That's Dexter, the feral dog, the feral res dog. And he's done. He likes to talk, so he's not a friendly dog. He's not a. He's happier now. He's happy. He didn't get put down, but he's happy. But he likes to be very vocal. So you guys need pizza. We're kind of getting to the pizza, so there. I'm trying to catch this and catch all this stuff. Well, people can't use detectors necessarily back in the wilderness area, and then you also have to realize that a lot of people don't know what they're doing with detectors. So I learned that from Frank and Woody. I watched other people doing stuff. We went out with the GPAP, and they had this nugget hunt, some kind of thing where they're shooting, doing whatever. And Frank is pretty deaf, and he has his set up, and he goes out, and Tim Saylor of the Diggers crew is out there, and okay, Dex. But Tim Saylor was out there, and all these guys, and Woody, and quite a few people, I believe. I'm trying to remember who all, but there's named people out there. And Frank went out there and cleaned up and was off and done, because he could only, I guess there was like tags or something you had to find, but Frank found his stuff, was done, went over to a different area, was finding stuff. He was way ahead of everybody. So here's a guy that's deaf, but I've learned Frank has a certain ear tuned to certain things. He hears really well. So I'm watching this incredibly large group of people that some have been on television. These people know what they do. They have really nice equipment, and Frank's just walking through them. I mean, even Woody, I mean, Frank was just like crazy. That is Frank's forte, is metal detection, and he does a great job. And I suddenly realized you got all these people that do this all the time and have, and wow, you can tell the difference between certain people. And Frank even gives up to people that are better than him. He'll tell you names. So it's really interesting. So putting those skills into set, when Barry Storm was out there early on doing his stuff and all, who knows? I mean, we've been out to places where people have been how many times, and we still find something. So people overlook stuff. And there is a story, and I don't know, I can't really tell it, but someone that went through and thought they found a tin can or an old tin can or something, and they said, oh, old rusty can or something like that. Anyways, they passed it by because they knew what it was, could tell by what they were reading. The next guy went over and figured, well, I'll dig the can out. He found it too and said, well, I'm going to dig it out to see what it is and at least get the can out of the ground and remove it so nobody else hits it. And he found a nugget about this big. And there was a picture. I got pictures of it and stuff, but I'd have to want his permission to show it and everything. But he found that nugget. So someone else who was an experienced guy with a metal detector thought it was a can, passed it by. This guy went through and found this nice nugget. So, and that's a true story, and I've seen the nugget, and I've confirmed it with everybody. But, it's just incredible. So you got guys that know what they're doing, and they walk right by that stuff. Okay, so I'm trying to catch up. Okay. You know what my eyes keep going to is you guys need pizza. Wow, that's pretty funny how my eyes just keep leading to that. Okay, that's how man is age. How far can a man drag? Well, if he killed somebody and he had to drag a body. Dexter wants pizza. I like Dexter. Dexter don't like people though, man. Don't try to pet Dexter. Now if you could only read a map. Frank is good unrefined. No, Frank's very good at metal detection. Very good. He's probably the best I've seen. And he'll tell me, no, I learned from this guy and that guy. They're better than me. But no, I've watched Frank. Man, there's stuff he's pulled off that I'm like, wow, man. Which is one of the reasons I can mess with a metal detector, but if we're out and we're doing something, I just let him go. It's like panning. If we're panning, when it comes to panning, just leave it to Woody. I don't care what anybody. Woody will go for stuff that most of us think is microscopic and shouldn't even try to pan, and he'll recover it. So it's, Woody's speed with what he actually never loses is important. So you find that people have strengths, and you have to step back and say, okay, I'll get better. When I first started panning, and any panning I'd ever done in my life, I was not very good. I spent time around Frank and Woody, and it wasn't so much what they told me as what I watched, observed, and kind of looked at what they were doing and understood it and the principles behind it and the feel of it, and then the repetition. So I just started working by myself more and more of kind of what felt right and looking at what results. So it involves having nugget gold, small gold, and then putting it in there and mixing it up and taking a shot at losing it each time, trying to figure out what works for you and how you're not, when you're not losing anything through that method. So, but Frank and Woody, I owe a lot to for that. Frank, very, very good. But yeah, I listened to Woody as well, and I learned to pan very well. But metal detection, because of tinnitus and certain things, I don't hear the tones the way Frank does. And Frank, as far as I'm concerned, just hears tones that drive me nuts, because he'll just go, nail, that's probably a dime. He just gets it. And so why do you even bother at that point? Because I'm never going to be that good or hear it the way he does. So because of that and his experience, go with him. But I got my metal detectors. I got a couple. Really read a map. Frank is good and refined. Which detector is Frank using? Is it the gold bug? I don't know. I'd have to ask him. He always tells me. He has a ton of them. Need a gold witch. I think Frank has one and Woody has one. So, bum, 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 bum. And I can always get a hold of one by, well, one of the guys that deals with metal detectors works with me. So if I ever need one, I'd probably go through Rob. Just to kind of, because Rob probably do me right with all that. Frank has a cool one from Australia. I have to get him on sometime to talk. We'll have to do a video where he talks about it, because he got it from some guy and it was customized, and it's one of a kind in the world. And it's very cool. I wanted to get him with, God damn it. What's the guy's name from Oak Island? Gary Drayton. I wanted Frank to bring his out for Gary Drayton to see, and him and Gary talk about, because Frank's very proud of it. But Frank got made a sweet deal and ended up with that one, and see what Gary thought of it. And Gary and Frank are both very good, so it would have been interesting to hear them talk about metal detectors and stuff. I think Gary, doesn't he use Mind Lab? But I know I'm pretty sure Frank has Mind Lab, and Gary, I think he has different styles and different types and stuff he has. And he'll talk, because he says everything's different depending on what you're looking for in the place you're looking for. It's very interesting. It can be kind of boring if you're not into that sort of thing, though. Okay. So I'm trying to catch experience runs with, well, experience is just sometimes you have it. It's just sometimes experience can be one thing, but some people have the knack, and Frank has the knack for that, because like I said, he can't hear with a crap most of the time. He'll turn his, he needs hearing aids and stuff, but when it comes to metal detecting, anybody who's been around him will witness it. He's right on point. So it's whatever it is, tone-wise or whatever, that's his thing, and I'm not going to knock him for it, because it works, whatever it is. So with all the strange deaths by gunshot in the same area, there's no cache. Is it a mine? The deaths have happened all over the mountains. I mean, it's just, you gotta remember, fast money oil helps. Yes, fast money oil. Gold Monster. Yeah, I think Frank has a Gold Monster. But what year is the Les Paul over your right shoulder? This be my right shoulder? I don't know. You give me a color. So there's a gold, there's a lemon burst, there's the burgundy, and then there's the tobacco, right? Lemon burst is in the middle next to the Strat. There's the burgundy one, which is a darker, warmer one. And then that's a kind of a tobacco hue. You got a different one. The one of there's got the burst buckers, which you can tell. That's a lemon burst. That's a 59 reissue Les Paul. That's the heaviest one. That Les Paul is like a brick. Yeah, man. You pick any of the others up, it's just because I got one in front of me here, a black one. I'm not sure what years. I know I'd have to go through them, because I know they stem from the 90s up until now. None of them are hollow body. None of them are the channeled Les Pauls. They're all heavy. But that Lemon Burst, that is heavy guitar. It's like you put that guitar on, it's like wearing 3 guitars at once. That is a heavy Les Paul. So it doesn't balance as well as some of the others either. So some guitars balance really well. That one's not a really. It sits on you, man. I would have hated to gig with that and play for 2-3 hours standing up with that thing on my back. Okay, I think I'm kind of catching up. If a woodchuck could chuck wood, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck? Is Frank? If Frank is that good, he must have used a BFO. A booby down. Yeah, I mean that's his thing. Burgundy, the burgundy one. Yeah, I think it's that was from a guitar collector. He got divorced and sold his guitar collection, and I was there, and I really liked the tobacco, and I really liked that burgundy. The burgundy one's very dark sounding. It's got a kind of a weird, dark, dirty. It sounds different, and I liked them both. I'm not going to say the prices they were, but they were both expensive. Came from his collection. He never played any of the things he got, but they're broke in, so he got them. They're really smooth playing guitars, and I was going to pick one up that day, and I had about 7 or 8 around, and then I decided, well, I'm going to just pick one, and I could not pick between those two that same day, and that's how I ended up with both of those. Yeah, that burgundy one, it's just a different tone. It's a haunted sound. It's not dirty. It's just kind of a weird, different tone to it, and not something I expected it to have. And that was the reason I ended up taking it home, because it just has a little different feel to it as a Les Paul, and I liked it. And I thought, I can't let that go, because regardless, it's kind of unique. So there's that. That's what happens with guitars. Looks like one is in the 90s. Could be, I don't know. There's a way to go with an IBR bridge, Jimmy Page sound. Can I hear you? Can hear you fine, Wayne. Okay. 5x5. Anyways, so yeah, so all the guitars have specific reasons because of the tone, the feel, and everything. Yeah, I know everybody always wants to do a guitar thing. I don't know if everybody else gets bored of that, but yeah, the guitars to me always have tones, and maybe sometime that's what I'll do is tell Trevor, let's just go film me looking at guitars so everybody can see what I do, what I go through. But the problem is when I go play with guitars, I usually want to buy one, and that's a very expensive hobby. I had to break myself of it. It was picking up too many guitars, and I was ignoring guitars that I should be playing, and that suddenly I realized was a problem. So, and then I told myself that, said I'm not buying any more guitars unless I get rid of one or two, and I'm not going to buy any more. And then I went out and bought a PRS. So it was like no hesitation. So when there's something I really like, or I like the tone, sound, and feel of it, and when it feels right, I just want to pick it up. But I can only play one at a time. That's a big problem. What dirt box did you use? Like the opening guitar line, Haunted. What are you talking dirt box? You talking just distortion? That guitar does not need a distortion box. I usually use a governor pedal. I like the governor pedal a lot. I use a TS8 and TS9, but generally I like to play through the clean channel of the amp. But see, you got to remember, if you look behind me, I generally play through the Marshalls, and I have a couple smaller Marshalls that I don't have to turn up as loud. I like that dirty sound. I like the dirty sound in the Fenders when they distort up a little, but generally it's the governor pedal. I'm a big fan of my governor pedal, and I recently picked up a Bad Monkey. So people are going, what the hell is he talking about? But yes, I have a Bad Monkey. And I have a governor. But I like those. They're more older pedals and stuff. I always find vintage stuff that just does what you need it to do is more important to me than a lot of new stuff. I do have a rack pedal board and some stuff. Oh, where did it go? It was back here behind me before. It's disappeared. Anyways, I had to do some fixing on that. Oh, I am curious where it went. It must have fallen down somewhere behind something. Ridiculous how much stupid stuff's laying around. Anyways, that's that. Well, man, we're going between metal detectors and effects lines and Hopewell Gold is at 1940. Yeah, about $2,000. People find it can hope so. After 56 guitars, I'm done. It's just, are you guys filming content for season 6? We haven't got into there yet. We always have tons of stuff left over, and then we generally just blow it off. I don't know. You can't see it from this camera angle, can you? There's 3 or 4 hard drives just laying right there that are just full. We fill hard drives with all kinds of footage. Trevor, in fact, found some footage from something else. We were going to film something in 4K for Chasing Legends, and he went, "Oh wow, this is where this is." It was on a card for the 4K, because 4Ks don't always, they film off a different card. So he was CFast card. So we find stuff always all over the place, and he tries to find files. We're trying to build hard drives, which has specific things, specific seasons. And then it's hard because think about it. Where are we at? Around 300 episodes. When you take all that stuff, and then you take the 3-4 seasons and all the other times that we went out and didn't do anything, it's just so much. It's hundreds of hours of footage. Just 2 guys trying to remember where it all is and what we were doing and if there was anything usable. And there's plenty of times I'll say, "Hey, we can use this some other time on this," and then I'm sure it's just sitting there filed away. There's a bunch of stuff we haven't used, but we pretend to put it away and never use it, because I always feel if it's not good enough to put out in that moment, I'd rather not. It can be archival stuff later. Gold and silver price is manipulated. Haven't bought one in 2 years. Thanks, Wayne. How can I contact you personally? Through the website. Let's talk treasure now. Any chance you might put out some outtakes? People, we talk about it, but it's digging through it. It's just one of the problems we've discovered is with everything is we just didn't. It's like a musician, and if you've ever seen archiving, most of my stuff's on a shelf down here, and you're going back to cassette tapes, reel to reels, a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and different stuff. And then there's files I have, and files I have on sticks, and I have stuff on discs and stuff. And you realize you're going through stuff, and a lot of it's repetitive sometimes. You've reused ideas and stuff, but then you also realize how much stuff there is going back over a period of time. So when we go out and film, if we're out all day, it's 8-10 hours of filming, and you're seeing 30 or 40 minutes of it. So each time that's happening, we're accumulating all that footage, and we're not using multi-cameras, which is what makes production companies, it makes it so much worse, because you got multiple versions of these things. But we just sit back, and like I said, I just tell Trevor, save what you can for a rainy day, and otherwise let's just keep moving forward, because I like the fresher stuff. I like to talk about where we're at now. So we did do some filming, and then we kind of got to that. But that was also a point where I said, if you remember the last episode, where do we go now? Because Frank and I were trying to figure out, it wasn't so much as doing seasons. Do we want to film and put out 2 hours of material on something in particular and then move from there, and several months later do something different? Do we want to completely conceptualize, do it differently? So we weren't trying to reinvent the wheel, but as far as distribution of the videos and stuff, did we want to do it differently? We want to hang stuff differently on the wall there for people. So instead of being stuck with, oh, it's 12 episodes, season this. So we weren't sure what to do, and that's a conversation we'll have here shortly as we go into this fall, of looking what we have and then looking what we want to do. And we know some of what we want to do, and then just deciding where we go with that overall. So there you go. I know I'm losing people and losing stuff as I go. I need to put some outtakes. Steve and Annie with the green Sprinter van. Been a few years, but we'll be making the outing this year with Jack Tucker. Cool, Jack will be out there as well. It's good. Yeah, everybody come on out, have a good time. I'm really trying to get us some really solid guest speakers, and I'm trying to get everything varied. And I think that's one thing people get a little confused of is, I'll have 5, 6 people as far as their versions of the LDM and where they think it's at, and they've solved the problem, and they want to come in and talk about it. How many of those people can you sit through? Nothing against the guys that claim they found it or solved the mystery, but how many of those people can you sit through before it's just like mind-numbing? And so I want to give different perspectives. Like the one year we had, what was it? I think we had Jack Sanfelice, Ron Feldman, and Brian McDonough. Brian had this situation where he believed the LDM and the stuff that's kind of in, I think it's Blair's book or Jenny's book. I think it's Blair's book, up in Black Canyon City and stuff. And he was going with that theory. Jack, we wanted to talk about the Silver Chief, or Silver King, the Silver King, which he was one of the part owners of, and then Ron about the heat dig and permitting, because each of them had their own trials and tribulations working, where Brian was having problems getting any permissions and stuff for certain reasons, but at the same time, Jack was having his problems with red tape and stuff and bureaucracy with the federal government and the state of operating the Silver King, and then Ron had gone through the whole thing with the Forestry Service and stuff for the heat dig in Rogers Canyon. And I wanted to contrast that all these guys kind of are treasure hunting, and it wasn't necessarily the lost Dutchman mine in each of these instances, but what they were having to go through and their story of what they were dealing with. So I like that because that'll keep everybody interested, because you're hearing stuff that's different and hearing from their perspectives of what it cost them and stuff. Plus they can, well, Jack and Ron know each other very well, but I was hoping Brian would learn from them and be able to kind of, work with them and talk to them to get insight of what he needed to do. Don't know if that actually really happened. I need 10 minutes. Well, it all depends. Like right now we got 2 Dutch hunting guys and very different thoughts and theories and stories. And then I know I'm trying to get Superstition Search and Rescue, put the call in there, some other historical stuff, and I'm trying to get a geologist in so we can have someone talk about the geology, the superstitions, and so forth, which is very interesting because for everybody that knows everything about the superstitions, it's funny how that many people don't talk to geologists about it. They like to talk to the government geologist or this person or the people at Lost Dutchman. That was one of the funniest things in the world. I've had a lot of people tell me, the people at the Lost Dutchman State Park are experts on the Lost Dutchman mine and the geology of the area. And I'm like, yeah, all right. Well, good luck for you. Yeah. Sat there talking to them one day, and then I was like, ooh, okay. It's okay, because if you're searching the wrong spot, you're searching the wrong thing. If you don't know what you're doing, you're not really affecting me. Thanks again for all you do and your devotion. Preserve you. Well, I didn't expect to do today. Today was completely unexpected. Man, I'm way past what I thought, but I did get a really late start. But what happened was Trevor was unable to get to archival stuff and some other stuff, and I just last night about 11 o'clock I was like, Trevor, do I have to do live tomorrow? And he said yeah, and I said okay. And then of course I had the hiccups and the problems I had, so I'll have to get rid of the one earlier one that'll probably be post out there and let it be done, so and make sure this one posts up. Even though, in my opinion, and I know people might like to go back and see them, I always consider them somewhat throwaway for no other reason as we're just talking. It's like sitting around a campfire and talking. The next time we talk, we can all have different shared opinions or thoughts or theories. Things always evolve, always change. If we're not changing and evolving, then what are we? So we're always our minds are kind of twisting and bending, and I'm looking at what people are talking about. And it really kind of does a lot. So I hear food being prepared. I do, yeah. So I kind of hear it, but nobody's done this. So I don't know what's going on. Anyways, I am going to wrap up and have Trevor come in and do a deep dive in this and figure out this weekend what happened so we can get this back up and working. We had something going pretty good. In fact, we just talked about kind of like going another step further and something even more deep and kind of more experimental. And now I know we can't. That is a 59 Les Paul that cost. Okay, at Guitar Center. That's a 59 Les Paul reissue. If that was a 1959 Les Paul, it's a Sunburst or not a sunburst, but it was, you know, a 59 Les Paul would be worth somewhere between 200,000 and 500,000. It's a reissue, so it's one of those ones where they make them again. But it's got the original hump. It's got the original burst buckers and all that stuff in it. It's a heavy guitar, so anyways, and the guitar's value is to the guitar owner or the buyer. And it's dependent. Some people look for some things, some people look for other things. So, but guitars are one thing about them. They don't depreciate, and they only really hold their value if they have serial numbers. And if you have the serial numbers, it kind of takes out the whole thing of people losing them. Most guitars turn up again and end up showing and going back into the right hands, always because they have serial numbers, and the guitar is a worthless piece of wood without those correct serial numbers. So that kind of keeps the thievery out of it a bit. Dead Man's Curse. I just watched it, similar to Legend. Dead Man's Curse, Legend of Slumach. I don't even know what that is. I'll have to Dead Man's Curse of Slumach. I'll have to look that up. I have to go back to the chat and make sure I got it correct and then go check it out. Thank you, though. All right, so I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. We're supposed to have a much cooler, better weekend this weekend. So it could not be a mine that was filled with some kind of originous treasure. I don't think it's treasure. I think there's gold mines out there. I've never found treasure, any sign that any treasure's been buried in the mountains. I'll be in the area for a hike Sunday. Let someone know in case of emergency. You can always can post to legendofsuperstitionmountains.com and send some information to us. That, hey, my name's so-and-so. Here's my phone number. I'm going to the mountains. I'll reach back to you guys on this date or whatever. Or you can just message and put in a message. We're going in the mountains today. It's this and this and this. There is also, I need to do that. We need to put up the SARS, because SARS has a phone line. I don't think they want bothered with that, but I don't mind if you do. If you put it in and Trevor goes in or I go in and we look and see that someone went in the mountains and didn't come out and respond, then we can kind of call or check or have someone go out. And like I said, Cooper and the guys at SARS are awesome. I don't know what's going on behind me here. It's like the screen behind me. I guess the Wi-Fi or something's having a problem, because it's not sure if I did it correctly. Well, I'll remember the name and do it and check it. Okay, my first strat was a 65, a senior year. I don't know what's going on in the background behind me. Have a great weekend. Yep. 65. I hope you got that strat, Ed Riley. I still hope you got that strat, because it would have been a solid strat to keep for a lifetime. I passed in so many things like that in my life that I should have grabbed onto earlier. But I'm going to go grab my food, grab something to eat. It's running late. Rebel Gold in your Dutchman books. I'm sure I do. There's a couple hundred books up here, so I'd have to go look and see what I got. There's a lot of books that I did not continually follow up on or follow into my favorite list. There's a number of books I haven't really read. There's some fictional ones too that I have on the shelf that I've never gotten to that I'm going to try to get to. So everybody, thank you so much. I really do got to get out of here. It was nice seeing everybody and everybody else here, the regulars and not regulars. Good to see Bowman back in there and hanging in there. Bud, it's nice to see you're still up and about and around and about and all, and take care, and everybody else. So thank you, everybody. And until the next time, this was Legends Live. I'm Wayne Tuttle. I now got to figure out how to turn this off. But anyways, have a good day. And yes, now you get to see me take the phone off and figure it out. I'm trying to look at this to see where is the stop button on this. It's showing it. It does not. Oh my gosh, this is a completely different thing. It says share. This is incredibly stupid the way they have this set up. Trevor! He is not coming. Rocky, is he coming? How do you stop the live stream on the phone? You just hit the X. Do we just hit the X?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Okay, that was that simple. Well, you usually have a stop button, stop streaming button. All right, so everybody have a good week. We will catch you later. Bye.